Yep, we're up and live. Hello, you gorgeous human being.
How are you, sir? Nice to see your face.
Oh, look, I get excited every time we connect. You know, I don't have to see you often to know that I could pick up the phone and Jess, I need to talk.
Yeah.
You're someone in my life that I really value. But rather than me tell everybody about the bromance that I have for you, I'd much rather you share who the heck is Jeremy Macvean.
How long have you got? Well, firstly, I'll say thank you for your kind words, Scott. And I feel the same about you. We see the world similarly, I reckon, in terms of how we want to show up and the stuff we want to talk about, the stuff you want to do, like this. So who am I? I'll start. I'm a proud father of 3 gorgeous girls. I'll start there. They're age 14, 12, and 9, and that's my main focus in life. That's the thing that keeps me going. I'm a single dad at this point. I had a breakdown in my relationship 6 years ago, so single father, which has changed the context of my parenting. Learned a lot through that process, and I'm still learning years on about myself off the back of that process. But it comes to work, I love working I'm a marketer by trade. I'm a communicator, so I love communication. And I've tried in the last, I'd say 15 or so years to turn my communication skills, I won't say from evil, but, from selling shit that people don't need to doing some stuff that has a positive impact. So I've been really lucky to work with Movember for a long time, doing men's health stuff. I love working in men's health and having powerful conversations that can help us all. I'm really lit up by that. And I also started the Fatherhood with a couple of other dads to support and inspire hands-on dads. So there's a lot going on in that space. Dads are much more involved this generation, 3 times more involved in this generation than just 1 generation ago. So heaps of change going on. So we're all making it up as we go along, like parents of today, and from this context, dads of today going, right, how do we work out what success looks like when I'm trying to work, I'm trying to support my kids, I'm trying to support my partner if I have one. It's a mess, and we're trying to make sense of it. So again, love having conversations in that space to talk about the shifting gender roles and what that means for how we all show up. There you go. There's a long answer.
I don't think it's long enough. I'm getting all excited because it's all music to my ears, right? Like I think one of the greatest things that COVID gifted us was the opportunity to be at home with the kids, right? And so many men embraced that and took that on. So I'm going to jump straight into the fatherhood because it's such a powerful part of both of our lives. And to know that we're 3 times more involved in our kids than the previous generation before us, that's huge. But that's also a lot of time and commitment.
Huge. That's exactly right. You nailed it, mate. Yeah. So I think I'm the lucky, and as I've already said, the proud father of 3 kids, right? And so my dad is also the proud father of 3 kids. He wasn't at the birth of his kids. He wasn't invited. It wasn't a consideration 1 generation ago, just 1 generation. And so now there was no question. It was just an expected thing that I would be. I have the privilege of being there to watch my children enter the world and be part of it. You feel pretty hopeless. I think there's a bit of a joke. You want to make a man feel hopeless, put his wife in labour. You just kind of stand there trying to be value. But I'm involved in the process, and that's in 1 generation. A huge amount of shifting has gone on. And so dads are much more involved. It provides all this opportunity. We can show up. We can laugh and cry and dance and be silly, and also provide breadwinner stuff, all that kind of stuff. We can turn up in all new ways. So huge opportunity, but it comes with its challenges. So yeah, dads are spending 3 times as many hours with their kids, but they're not working any less. So I think cost of living's gone up. You've got often 2-income households. You're going to manage that juggle. And day to day, it's tough. So yes, there's opportunities. And so conversations like this are so good to share perspectives and go, it's great. We can show up how we want to as dads today in a whole new way. We've got these opportunities, but bloody hell, it's not easy. You get to the end of the week, you think, wow, what just happened? Did I win? I don't know. It's tough. I think I'm trying. And as I've shared with you, like for me, I just try. If I can have a crack and try in all the different roles, I feel like I'm doing the best I can, and I end the week somewhat happy with my performance. So that's where I'm at. So I loved having conversations with all parents, but particularly from a dad's perspective, celebrating dads getting involved. And the important thing with that, it's for the benefit, for the benefit of everyone. Dads have a better life. Like, it's the most meaningful thing in my life, unquestionably, is my role with my children. And what it also does, if dads are getting involved in traditional sort of heterosexual relationships, frees mums up from this sort of primary carer kind of thing, unshackles them from wiping bums and nappies and home duties, and means they can get back into the workforce if they want to and choose what they want to do. And it's also obviously better for kids. They have parents much more equally involved, and they get role models from different genders, and kind of everyone wins in this scenario. But it's tricky, and we need to talk it through. We need to support ourselves because the pressure's up, and we need to help each other.
And that right there is the big one for me. We do need to help each other. We're navigating waters we haven't navigated before. So best way to do that is to grab an oar, paddle together, because we end up in the same direction quicker. And that's one of the things that I love doing with you. I love having conversations with you because I feel like I'm paddling with you. One of the greatest things that you gifted me, which I gift as much as I can to new fathers, have a crack. Just have a crack. Doesn't matter what it is. Have a crack. Change a nappy. Do the bath. Just get up at night. Nurse the baby when you in the rocking chair. Fall asleep with the baby in your arm. Have a crack. Why is that so important?
Oh, it's really important. I mean, yeah, I've passed it on to you, and I tell that story quite a bit. That was an antenatal class. I was sitting around because it's different for dads, right? We're not carrying babies. We can go into work or whatever, and our life doesn't particularly change in the 9 months before becoming parents. And I was in this class with a bunch of guys. It was great. And this guy that was running it said, look, fellas, when you're over the road in the hospital in a couple of weeks' time and you become a parent for the first time, have a crack. And so what do you mean by the guy? So at that point, if you want to be a good parent, have a go. Because at that point, she doesn't know more than you about how to change a nappy, what temperature the bath water needs to be, how all the stuff, how to swaddle, all that stuff, right? And I just remember sitting there thinking, I can do that. I can have a go. I might not be good, but I can have a go. And so I think from that moment forward, carried it on and tried to pass it on, carried that because why that's important at that point in a becoming parents and sharing that care is it reduces the chance of men particularly becoming like mum's assistant, like the parent's assistant, where you one step back and you don't quite know all the stuff. You don't quite know as much how to do all the stuff. So therefore, that puts the kind of burden of care on the bum, and then the dads are kind of sent a step back. But if you're kind of stepping forward, and this is why what seems like a kind of surface level change, yeah, Jeremy, you're at the birth of your kids, but it's symbolic. It means I was involved from the get-go and had the chance to step up, right? And so this is why I get so passionate about this. It gives everyone the chance to step up and get involved, and that then sets a framework for the future of your kid's life. And I've tried to carry that forward. And one example I sometimes give is I coach my daughter's netball team. Like I've never played netball. I got no idea. When I took it on, I didn't know about netball positions. I still don't know the rules. I don't kind of get it. I've been doing it for years now. But again, the same philosophy as my girls have got older. The opportunity came up. I was like, well, it's a chance for me to share something with my kids. I'll have a crack. I'll have a go. I'll just step in and give it a go. And again, that opportunity wouldn't have been provided to my old man. And so if your dad's listening to this or any parents, just give it a go. Give it a go. And that's how we step into these things. Bit of discomfort, supportive conversations, and have a go.
Yeah, I love it. I love a bit of discomfort too. The other side of discomfort's growth, and that growth is genuinely good growth. Because it's when we get uncomfortable, we learn a lot. We pay more attention because we're more aware of what's going on. So get involved. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about fathers, and just so much of my work is around helping men have the courageous conversations they need to have.
Yeah.
But there's one question that always gets me. I always ask the guys when I'm hosting an event, who was your first role model? Always their father. always their father. And it hits pretty hard, right? Because we're a product of that environment. As a father, you have a job, yeah, and that's to be the best role model you can be. Sometimes we need help with that, and that's okay. But that's the importance of fatherhood on all levels. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, for sure, mate. Yeah, and it's a touching thought, and I couldn't agree more. Yeah, like what we provide and is an example to our kids, and being really, it's the greatest privilege that we have, I think, as parents and as dads in this case. And yeah, my first role model is my dad. I'm totally shaped by my dad. And there's that kind of the other side to it, when I'm showing up in ways that piss me off about him, and then you get so annoyed because you realize it's just, you kind of get frustrated because you see it in someone else. But yeah, so my dad's hugely shaped me. So yeah, this is what we, again, using that word opportunity, we can show up in this way. And often and particularly, like, it's using kind of gender stereotypes, but there's one thing that hit me when I first became a dad, and this is, I got to provide. I'm now providing for my flock, and the stakes are going up. I'll never forget the moment. I was getting a coffee downstairs the day after my eldest daughter was born, and bam, it hit me like this. I'm now providing for another human, and oh shit, like everything's really, it felt really heightened. And but the thing is dads, we need to, and I've had to go on my own journey on this, that providing isn't providing a trampoline in the backyard. And yes, financial provision and all that sort of stuff's really important, but providing yourself and providing a really solid example of what a masculine role model can look like, obviously for anyone, for boys and for everyone. So I feel like when I'm coaching netball teams, I'm being a masculine role model to the 10 girls in the team. And so, yeah, we're providing much more than what sometimes we think of as guys is providing, is going to get a job and putting dinner on the table, which is really important. I'm not going to say, look, financial pressure is real. But we're changing the way we think about what we provide, and part of that is ourselves and how we show up as humans and what that means of role modeling.
I just love it, right? Because it was a big thing for me that I learned. What am I providing for Oscar? What am I providing for his future? What are the things that I want him to value going forward? Is it just going out and working his absolute backside off but not being available? Yeah. I'm the product of that. That didn't end well, and unfortunately my father had a worse version of that. So he was still an improvement of his father. Do you know what I mean? So I get to figure out how I turn up. There's a comment just come through. Do you mind if we address it?
Absolutely, sir.
So that's one of the things I love about this platform. People can throw up questions and we can do it. Throwing my hat in the ring here. I would love to ask my ex-husband who his role model is, because he gave up on my two beautiful kids. They call him the wallet dad, but it has never been a father. Ooh, do you want to have a crack at that?
Yeah. It's tough. Obviously, I don't know that circumstance. Thank you, Bronwyn, for contributing to the conversation. Really appreciate you getting involved in that way. Don't know the circumstance, so that would lead your ex-husband to act in that way. So I do find it hard to comment on. Like, I'd love to know his perspective on why he's not around, and I imagine there's stuff that's he's acting in that way for reasons that we're not across. Like, I feel for him, I got to say. I mean, it sounds like it's difficult for you, Bronwyn, in raising this and saying he's the wallet dad, as in he provides financially, but he's not there. It sounds hard. My guess is, knowing nothing about the circumstance, it would be hard for him and what's brought him to make that decision in his past. I don't know. But I do know in a lot of the conversations I have like this, I mean, I think the word trauma is often overused by psychs. There'll be, let's just call it shit. There'll be stuff going on in his past that's leading him to act in that way. And I hope he's going all right, because I feel for, again, it's obvious. I want to say again, Bronwyn, it's difficult for you, but I feel for guys that are out there not seeing their kids and what's brought them to make that decision, because I feel so fulfilled in the role of being a dad, and for whatever reason this guy's taken the choice to not go down that path, and I imagine there's something that's driving that decision. So I have a lot of love and empathy for both of you and the kids that are missing out on seeing their dad.
I'm smiling with all my heart right now, and this is why I love this man so much. It's exactly where I'm at, where yes, I actually know Bron. I know part of the circumstances. I know how it's turned out for the kids. I know these things, but I want to wrap my arms around him and find out why that's his value, why that's too hard, too big a bridge to get over, because there's reasons for that. And I want to support him and get him over that bridge so that he can find the value in that. You know, I think that's one of the hardest things as a man, right? When mistakes happen, where do we go? Where do we go to get the help and the support to bridge that gap if we find that that's the most important thing? You know, and that's what I'm so passionate about creating, is those safe. I know you are too, Jeremy. Like supporting fathers is supporting relationships, it's supporting the kids, it's making important. So, Bron, I just want to say a huge thank you for throwing that up there, and feel free to pop more up as more comes up, you know, because that's actually really important. I hope there's a little bit in here. I feel there's not going to be any great answers there for you, but with all my heart, we send love to you because you're an amazing human. So, beautiful. All right. Just keeping a little bit of an eye on time. We've got quite a few things to get through. I will ask you one thing that in fatherhood, though. We both agree role modeling is the most important thing we can do for our kids and showing that. But if you had to pick one trait that you would want to leave your kids with, what would that be?
I think as I'm thinking.
On the spot.
I think, as particularly from a perspective of a male role model, I am going to go for, can I have 2 words? Openness and authenticity are the 2 things to mind for me. So if that is like showing up authentically and being open, I think with a lot of guys, we run away from pain. And back to Bronwyn's thing, I wonder if that might be the circumstance, but I know nothing about it. We can to sit in the discomfort, and I want to show up in that way. I want to have that characteristic with my girls, is to sit as and it's something that I'm still building my own muscle on, to sit in the discomfort of hard conversations and hard circumstances and hard emotions and be with it. So that'll mean to cry in front of my kids. That'll mean to say I don't have the answers. That will mean to sit in hard circumstances and not try and solve it, and just be with them in life. So, and the other thing about openness, so openness to just be with them, but openness about my own challenges. So I need to be strong as a parent. You need to be strong and demonstrate that you got it under control and you know what's going on, and you're the adult in the relationship, and I want to let them know that they're safe, but also be open to say that I don't have all the answers, and we're working our way through it, and I make mistakes. Show up in that way. So that's what comes to mind for me. It's not one thing. It's sort of a blurred, or they're similar. That's what I want to instill in my kids.
I love that, right? Because it's about courageous conversations, sitting in the discomfort. It's all stuff that really helps you grow. I'm going to throw in my little bit, because this is something that I was actually cycling along Great Ocean Road once, and I was with a man that I value a lot in my life, and his name's Tony.
Yeah.
And we're having a conversation, and I asked him, if you had to leave your kids with one thing, what would it be? He goes, be responsible. And I took that.
Yeah.
And rather than give it to the kids, I took it for myself.
Yeah.
To choose responsibility for all parts of my life. And it's something that I hold a lot of value on these days, because it helps me have those courageous conversations. It helps me live with an open heart. How do I want to be responsible for this? How do I want to turn up? You know, and I do that with Oscar. How do I want to turn up for him and allow him to be responsible for his stuff. So it's some magic there. So Big Tone's been a while. If you're watching this, good to see you. So I love it.
Thanks for sharing, Scott.
Yeah, but that was something for me that actually really changed my thought patterns. I was looking at things and I was like, how can I be responsible? Because I see responsibility as the ability to respond. Yeah. How do I respond to this? I have the ability. How do I do that? Anyway, that's an overshare.
Yeah, but on that, like they often say, like in sort of hard situations in life, it's how we respond to what the world throws at us that defines us. And yeah, I think about that a lot. And so thanks for sharing. I'll take that away.
Yeah. Well, we get thrown a lot in life, right? Life comes at us. Yeah. So much of the stuff that happens to us in life, it's external. And it just comes. And then we go, okay, I can either sit in the pain, find the lessons, or create the opportunity. And I like to go through all three. I think that's where the magic is.
Yeah. It is how we grow through those sorts of things. And one thing I just want to add, Scott, I just want to pass on to people. I think this is in my time working with Movember, I think it's the best tip or the best thing I've got in that, in terms of being responsible for a bit of a theme we've had here, open conversations. So often we think as humans, particularly as guys, but as humans, okay, I'm worried about Scott. Scott hasn't been great in the last couple of weeks. He hasn't been out and about. He's been a bit quiet. I'm worried about him. We think we've got to ask the magic question that's going to crack you open and tell you about the shit that's going on in your life. I'm worried about you. I want to take those responsibility. And so when we think about open or authentic or courageous conversations, I think the most important thing is we can take responsibility for creating a dynamic between the people that we love, and that is to be open ourselves. And it's something I've learned and something I then try to take into my life is if I want to create authentic relationships with yourself and my kids and my friends and my family, I think the most powerful thing I can do is take responsibility for that by being open myself. And what that does, that then sends everyone that I love firstly, I'm being courageous. I'm stepping into the idea of saying, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. Whatever it is, I'm not going to tell you all my dirty laundry. There's obviously boundaries, but I'm going to tell you I'm not sleeping at the moment. I'm worried about work, and I'm going to talk about my stuff. And that then sends a signal to the people in our lives that, oh, Jeremy's up for this shit. He's willing to talk about the real stuff. So when stuff isn't going great for them, they're willing. It's like a trade. They're willing to then drop their guard a little bit and talk a little bit about the real stuff going on in their life. And so in terms of taking responsibility, and in terms of, we've talked about that, and we talked about open conversations. What I love about that is we can all act on it. We can all take responsibility to show, we want to support the people in our lives. I'm sure everyone listening to this will go, I'd love to be able to support the people that I care about. There's plenty of data that shows that. How do you do it? Show up with openness and authenticity for them, and you provide a platform for them to share with you. And I love that, and I wanted to share it with you and the people listening or watching to take into their lives, because I think it's really helpful.
I want to second that, triplet, quadruple it and all that, because I literally had a conversation with a guy I've been working with for a couple of years today, and he had extensive opportunities when I first met him. And we're talking today, and I said, what's the one thing that you think has helped you the most, that's made the biggest difference in your life? He goes, being honest. He goes, it's been the hardest thing I've been able to do. It's just to be honest about what's really going on and how I feel, and have those conversations. Throughout my time numbing myself, I chose to hide and lie rather than face it, because it was easier. And he goes, now the one thing that he's put into his life is truth. And that truth is so hard to get to at times. But it's allowed him to be able to move through things, because when you've got honesty, you've got factual stuff, and we can work with that because we can get a result with that. But when we've got mistruth, we're dealing with something that's not real, so we can't work with it. And that was the beautiful thing about when he developed that in himself. And he goes, it's still a work in progress, but I know the value in it now. So which leads into all of what we're saying, and
it's hard, isn't it? It's really hard to show up, and it takes guts to be open. And again, particularly for any guys, like we want to be like courage is sort of a masculine trait. We all want to be seen as being courageous and gutsy or whatever you call it. And the thing, and I'm sure you see this too, Scott, and kind of work with guys. Who do people if you open up, it feels scary. You feel kind of that vulnerable thing. You feel open and you don't want to look weak, all that kind of stuff. But you ask, and again, I've got lots of experience in this. You ask the people in the room, who's the most courageous person in the room? They'll say, that guy that just opened up. Like, if you turn up honestly, people love you more and think you're courageous. So it's this opposite factor that's in our minds. Like, oh, it's really scary to be open. It's really, I don't want to look weak. It's the opposite. You'll feel more connected to the people around you and they will think you're courageous. So again, as a motivating factor to get us through that discomfort because it's uncomfortable, I then try to remind me it'll give me better connections with people and push that away. They won't think I'm weak. They'll think I'm a little bit gutsy for getting on a webcam and telling the dirty stories.
But this is what I love. Like this is like you know my passion against vulnerability, right? I don't like it at all because it's not a word that creates strength. Courage. Let's step into the courageous action of actually opening our hearts, being honest with the situation, and creating dialogue, which is going to support us to create a different outcome. That's courageous. That's courage. There's no vulnerability in that. It's actual courage. Do you know what I mean? You're not under attack. So
I totally agree. We think very like you said earlier on.
I get a little bit.
Oh, for sure. I don't like the vulnerability word. I think it particularly working with me, and I couldn't agree more. So I often say things like have the guts to go there, have the guts to really show up, that kind of stuff. And because I think that speaks to, again, traditional gender norms, but I think it speaks to guys because we've been taught that.
Yeah. And well, it's interesting, like, because talking about communication here, and one of the things that I feel as a society we could actually do a whole lot better is the ability to listen. But when we talk about the ability to listen, part of that is allowing the freedom to stumble through a conversation, to not quite get it right and then hear back and then try and work on it, make progress. Practice makes progress, not perfect. So with that, how do we create safe places where we can stumble through those conversations? Because when they come from the heart, when they're an open-hearted conversation, there's emotion connected to it. Now, the emotions, because we care about the outcome. So when we're sharing the open-hearted conversations, how do we create their freedom to stumble?
Love it, mate. I got another word for you. You ready? Because I'm just passing on stuff that people have told me that's been helpful for me. I'm a work in progress. And anyway, I'm going to tell you something I learned about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I was doing suicide prevention training and they had an acronym and it was ask, acknowledge, refer. And I'm going to come to the acknowledge word. I think it's really powerful. So in this training, ask is ask the question. And what I've just said before then is role model openness, I think is really important. And ask is ask the and to your point there, the acknowledge bit was it's really important. You don't need to solve their problems. You don't need to become a counselor. You just sit in their space, right? You sit there with them in whatever they're talking to you about. And the acknowledge word's important because you don't say, and I'm not going to sound like there's rules, but it's been helpful guidance to me. Oh, I know what that would be like. Because you don't know, you're not in their circumstance. I don't know your circumstance. I don't know Bronwyn's circumstance previously. But you can acknowledge that sounds really tough. What you're telling me sounds really tough. And so, yeah, when you're in this sort of, when the heart rate goes up, you're in the heightened conversation, you've opened up about stuff going on in your life. Someone comes to you and says, oh, this is going on. My marriage is on the rocks. You don't need to solve their marriage. And I just remind myself in it, sit there with them, ask open questions. So they can just keep talking, just keep it nice and safe and acknowledge whatever they're saying. Just replay back to them, oh, that sounds really difficult. You're not sleeping, like you, whatever it might be. And then the refer bit is refer them onto the support that they might benefit from. Might be go to the GP, might be whatever it is, but you can help them get to the next stage. You don't have to solve their problems, whatever that might be. So, yeah, that's what I think. Sit in it. You're not a problem solver. You're a listener and an acknowledger of life stuff.
I'm smiling so much because this is all my language and I just love it. There's one thing I'd like to throw out there on top of that, though, because like we've got the acknowledgement, like that sounds really hard. I think something that we could do better is say thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You know, like we've got to applaud one another for actually having the courage to do that and be genuine with it. Look, thank you for sharing that. It's one of the things that I use genuinely for different. Like if someone's giving me something that I don't want to hear and it's too much, I just go, look, thanks for sharing that. That's yours. Thanks for sharing that. No worries. Awesome. I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that. Or when I'm sitting in a really dire situation, thank you for sharing it. I can see the courage it took to share that. Yeah.
That really not
the conversation.
Oh yeah, because it is a gift, and it's bringing you closer. And again, I had someone share something with me a couple of days ago, something in their history that's shaped their life, and just you saying that's right. I felt like it was a gift, them being open, and then it just brought us so much closer. And they're feeling like I could potentially judge them. It's the last thing I'm going to do. I'm like, I have empathy. They're like, oh, that's gone up, and like you're saying, I felt. I think I might have said thank you. It's just like, I feel so much closer to you. It's a gift what you've just done there. Well, that's a ripper. You say again, for us all to have in our minds. And why I like those memorable things and I use them is because, like I'm sure people watching this, little things you can keep in your mind to enter into conversations. That, again, we're not trained in this stuff. I don't know. Like I went to a high school with boys and like grew up with brothers. We're not good at this stuff. So I need a couple of little touchstones to navigate my way through. So that just thank them for being open. Just sit with them and thank them.
I am so pulling you up on that. Maybe you weren't good at it, but you are now.
I'm working on it. Yeah.
You've been practicing. Congratulations, you've made progress.
Thank you. And it's not a black belt. I'm whatever the mid-range belt colors are. I don't know.
Right. Even the greatest black belt in history became a white belt when he was buried. You guys is here to learn, continually to learn, right? That's our. If we're either green and growing or ripe and running, right? In every aspect of life. So how can we grow through this together? That is something that it's a bit of a bromance. You might have noticed it already, but you and I have always grown through our conversations. We've listened to one another and we've taken the magic from one another and we implement that into our other conversations. I think life is one of the greatest plagiarisms there ever is. And actually having the opportunity to plagiarize is a bloody great compliment. So that's why I enjoy so much our communication. So we're already at 33 minutes and I had so much more to talk about. I think this has been incredible value as it is. And every single time I talk to you, whether it's just here or just you and I on the phone, that's the value of living with an open heart and finding ways to actually support one another, not by having to fix each other, just by listening and asking questions to dig a little bit deeper. How's that feel for you? What was the outcome on that? What do you think you could have done better there? What did you learn through that? You know, and that's the magic that is. So I'm actually gonna ask you to come back in probably a little bit of time, because I have a lot of other things I want to talk to you about. I want to have a good chat to you about the future of men's health. I want to have a good chat to you about equity. Okay, how do we create equity in the workforce? Like it's something for me that we need to understand more about what that would look like and how we can create it. But more importantly, what is the benefit of it? That's something that I feel like we haven't explored it enough as a society to value it enough to actually project it into our company lives and our lifestyles. But I think the biggest thing that I'm taking away from this today, and I hope the viewers are too, is the importance of fatherhood. You got two men here that prioritize it. There's two men here having a conversation that's generally pretty courageous. How do you think that supports our kids? So I'm going to ask you something just to close out today. If you had one bit of advice to give 15-year-old Jeremy Macvean, what would it be?
I did an event actually where I had to write a letter to my 15-year-old self. So I've been, there's been some prep on this. without knowing that question was coming. And I think I would say to 15-year-old Jeremy, you don't need to be perfect. So I set expectations and tried to keep life neat, and that leads to all sorts of stuff. That's the opposite of what the stuff that you and I have just been chatting about, the authentic, showing up in the mess, all that sort of stuff. And so, yeah, that's something I reckon the 15-year-old Jeremy was pretty fixated on being a good boy and no scars. Let's not make any mistakes and let's show up like everything's all good. It's all good. But I guess as I'm now a 50-year-old guy, I've realized that there's, sounds a bit cliche, but there's beauty in the scars. There's, there's, you learn through that kind of stuff, and life's messy and we don't have all the answers. And I've just had enough stuff going in my life that's taught me the lesson that you're not perfect, and get used to the idea of rock star. So, and settle into the discomfort of being very imperfect. And here I am, the mess that I am, proudly just on display. So yeah, that's what I'd say on myself then.
I just love it. I seriously, because turning up in a mess, right? It's such an important thing. Recently I had a bit of time off BNI, and my little BNI community is so damn supportive of me. I had to step away, and I was almost going to pull out, right? Because I felt guilty. I had shame around it because I didn't provide, but I turned up.
Yeah.
Right. And I tried to speak, and tears came, and I'm like, this is what I teach. And I just stood there and I was just talking my way through it. And I said to everybody, I said, Scott Carson, Business of Smiles, I support the hearts of men, but it's been my heart that's been needed to support lately.
Yeah.
Thank you for having my back. Oh, almost got me. But and those places of support, you ask for it, it's there. You'll find it. But it's just living with an open heart and being honest about things.
Absolutely. I mean, and thanks, Scott, for sharing that perspective of yours and that experience of yours. And again, for people listening and for you, I've worked at Movember for a while, right? And there's statistics that show that men don't want to be perceived as like a burden that way. They don't want to kind of lean too hard on the people around them. But the opposite, there's more men that want to support those around them. So we all want to provide support in times when people aren't feeling great. And so for you to show up authentically and say, look, I haven't been great and I'd love you guys to get around me at the moment. We all want to do that. And so we want to get around you. We want to get around anyone listening. So again, it's this weird thing. We feel like we do, when we're not 100%, we don't want to burden other people, but everyone around us actually wants that. And again, I won't bore you with the stats. There's research that shows that the people, we want to help each other and we feel good when we help each other. So if people getting around you at that moment would have made them feel good and it gets you back on track. It's how it works.
Yeah, 100%. A great mentor, Mick always said to me many years ago, he goes, how good does it feel supporting someone? Okay, yeah, great. He goes, then don't rob people of that opportunity. Be honest and turn up. I'm like, ooh. Bang! Clam that car door. Mic drop out. So, yeah. Cheers. I love you. I seriously, I just, every single time I speak to you, my heart feels more connected to you. So thank you so much for coming on tonight. We've actually got something magical coming up, which I can't believe is happening. 13th of June, Men's Health Week, Friday the 13th of June, we're doing a lunch in Frankston. Both Jeremy, myself, Steve Angel, and Pierre Yuri will be on a panel where you can ask us anything you like. It'll be a quick presentation, nice bite to eat at Hotel Lona, and then we're going to be available for an open conversation. So if you've got questions about fatherhood, about life, about supporting the men in your life, pop along. I can guarantee you it's going to be an epic day. So, mate, with all my heart, thank you again for turning up and being unashamedly you. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate you hugely. Got lots of stories around that. That's for another time. But nice to. This is a normal conversation. We just recorded this one and broadcast it to a few people. So really good to see you. Really good to chat. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. All right. Well, in that case, take care. I'll be back next week with another episode of the Good Men Project. Now I have to find the button. You think I'd be used to it by now, wouldn't you? Where the bloody hell the button is. But they keep changing it. I'm not quite sure where it goes. Oh, hang on.